Lori Wright, also known as Not Your Average Grandma. I created this podcast as a place to go for midlife inspiration. If you are in a stage where you believe the best is behind you, it is my hope that one of these episodes will ignite a long suppressed or unrealized desire, and you will see the potential within yourself just waiting to be tapped, so you can do amazing things with the time you have left. I want you to stop seeing your age as a limitation and start seeing it as your superpower. You have years of experience and value that the younger you never had, so it's time to lean into that and use it to fuel your future. No more letting age hold you back from the pursuit of a more passion-filled life. The more passionate we are, the better the world will be. So stop settling for average, put your AirPods in, and let this episode inspire you to take the first step in transforming your mind, body, and soul. Welcome to another episode of Not Your Average Lives, and I am delivering another Activating Abundance episode. And if you're watching this on video and wondering if I am always wearing the same clothes, I am recording multiple episodes in one sitting. So I do change my clothes. All right. So today's topic is pandemic positives. And this came to me because I've had some recent feelings come up. I've had some recent real abundant feelings that are related to the pandemic. And I thought, this is a really good way to get you thinking about the good in the pandemic, because we think always about the bad. We think about the death and the fear and all the loss, not seeing the people we love and not having to have access to the things that we loved for so long. It's been a long time. Stuff's been around, going on a year and a half. So this is really my thoughts. So I listed 10 things. I think I added an 11th thing at the last minute. But the short list, the list could be a lot longer. I could go on and on, but there's only so much time, and I don't want to have you spend more than an hour here. Hopefully this will be about 30 minutes. But I would love for you to make a list of what you're thankful for about the pandemic, what positives have come up for you as a result of the pandemic. And these are mine. And like I said, I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about them. These are just the first things that came up. So sometimes the first things that come up are the most important things. But it was, just something that I thought would be useful, something that, as things are starting to open up and we reflect, because I always like to reflect, think about the pandemic, not in a negative way, but in a positive way. What do we learn from it? What do we take away from it? What's the good in it? And maybe why did it happen? So number one, and I shared a little bit on a Facebook Live I did yesterday because I was thinking about it. I got back from a walk, so I might have heard that, but I shared my first 3 on that. So number one, smiles. I love smiles. I love good smiles. And I've always had a pretty good one because people are like, when I don't smile, they're like, what's wrong? So it's just a smile is usually pasted on my face. And smiles, we couldn't see for a long time. When you wear a mask, you can see kind of crinkles in the eye, and that might mean there's a smile. But there's something is taken away when your mouth is covered. And the mouth says a lot, right? So it makes me think of my grandchildren. Like, think of what the kids aren't seeing. They're not seeing happy faces. And that's got to be kind of scary, right? When you see happy faces, even strangers, when I look at a child in a stroller and I smile at them, oh, they love that. They smile right back. They don't have fear of strangers. It's just their parents. Oh, don't talk to strangers. But that stranger connection, when you smile, it makes the day better. Gives them a little minute or half a second of happiness. And that was missing. That's been missing. And now people are starting to take their masks off. and you're seeing a lot more smiles. And so that was number one, I thought, is it made me appreciate smiles because they were missing for so long. So much value in just a simple smile. Number two, face-to-face conversations. I feel very fortunate because I have the kind of job where I talk to people on video. I get to see people, meet people. And so I think as an extrovert, that hasn't been as big of a loss for me than some people. But we went to a party recently, last weekend, graduation party, and I was happy for the girl who graduated because, people last year didn't have a graduation. So she was all excited and our friends were there and we got to talk to some people we hadn't talked to for a while, and I almost didn't go. I was like a little like, I don't know, we're gonna all be inside. Is it safe? It was meant to be kind of an indoor outdoor party, but it was raining. So, but fortunately they had put up a tent on their deck, and so you could go outside as well. But the fear is always when you're not in the situation. But then once you are brave enough to face the situation, then the fear dissipates. It goes away. Because once I walked in that door, after the first 5 minutes, I was so busy like talking to people and engaging in conversation that I didn't think about the fear anymore. And so having those face-to-face conversations, I came home. My husband and I remember I said, how long do you think we're going to be gone? Because, we put our dog in his pen. And he said, oh, a couple hours. Well, let's see. I think I came back after 4 or 5 hours, and he stayed at the party for he was gone like 8 hours. So having that time face to face with people made me realize how much I missed it and how much it invigorated me. I just was really happy the next day. And I thought, I almost didn't go. The pandemic's kind of forcing me into an introvertedness that I never had before. But I got my extrovertedness out and dusted it off, and it was pretty fun. So number three, crowds cheering at sporting events. I mean, there's other kinds of events I know that have crowds, but sporting events, we are big sports fans in this house. And we were watching a lacrosse game. We live in a town and they were in the final championship game of the lacrosse. And I don't follow lacrosse. I don't know the rules of lacrosse. All I know is that it's kind of rough. And I think the refs should call more fouls. It's like hockey. But people don't get pulled out of lacrosse as much as hockey. And they're like hitting each other with the lacrosse sticks. And I'm like, if that was my kid, I'd be like mad. I'd be mad at the ref. But anyways, I get off track. The cheering was so great. And then they would show the stands, and the people were in the stands and they didn't have masks on and they were pretty full. And then everybody like piles on top of each other at the end of the game. And they probably would have done that anyways, even if people were wearing masks, because that's just how exciting it is when you win a game. But it was just so cool to experience that again and see it and feel it. Because that's emotion. It's almost like for a year and a half, there's been lack of emotion, or the only emotions have been fear. So to have people happy, even if their team didn't win, they were cheering along until they lost, but that emotion, that fun feeling that comes when you're in a sporting event that was lost for a while. So appreciate it. The other thing that came up for me was good health. I have never been so healthy in a year and a half, knock on wood. And right before the pandemic hit, I was really sick. In October of 2019, I went to my last in-person event that my coach did in Los Angeles. And I went and I had a little bit of a sore throat, kind of cold. And then it just got worse while I was there. And I felt really bad for my roommate. I remember thinking, and I was coughing and I lost my voice, which I never lose my voice, and I talk a lot. So it's really hard to lose your voice when you are a talker at an event, right? And that's all you want to do is talk to people and, you know, just be around people and have conversations, have good conversations. And I came home and that was the last time I was sick. So I haven't been sick. I was not sick in all of 2020. And I've been taking some like extra vitamins and I feel so, so good. And so it's like the pandemic gave me the gift of health in a way. I know for some people, it didn't give them the gift of health because some people got COVID. But for me, wearing a mask, washing my hands a lot, it definitely made me healthier, and it made me think the value in mask wearing, although some people might, disagree with me, but there is a little value in mask wearing, even though you don't see your smile. But I do appreciate that I haven't been sick. That's good. That's a good thing. It gave me a new appreciation of my spouse because I'm a lucky person to be living with somebody I really like. And it made me realize how much I like him and how much he likes me because he was a bachelor. He was a bachelor for a long time. He was a bachelor. When we got married, he was 52. And he wasn't used to people being in a space. So that was an adjustment the first couple of years. But we're together pretty much 24/7, except when he's running around doing his real estate thing. But I'm pretty much home, all the time. And so that was really fun. And it was really fun realizing that we can be together all this time. And yeah, that was a really good positive of it, right? Gaining that appreciation that maybe wasn't there before. And it's even better than it was before the pandemic because of that newfound appreciation, being around each other so much. And I know a lot of people might not have that. The opposite might have happened. So for that reason, I appreciate it so much. So number 6, oh my gosh, what would we do without cable? We complain about the cable bill, but remember when we just had 5 channels? I had channel 4, channel 5, channel 7, and channel 9. And then we had UHF. And you were lucky if you could get something on UHF. It was always fuzzy and staticky. But I think we got channel 26. And isn't that originally where Sesame Street came from? I don't even remember. It was maybe when my kids were little. But when I was young, we just had like the 4 main channels. And now we have endless channels, endless subscription services. We have Netflix. We have, we do subscribe to HBO. There's just like so many options. So can you imagine having a pandemic without all those cable channels? Can you imagine if we were stuck with, maybe we would have read more. Maybe we would have read more, but there wasn't Amazon. So maybe we wouldn't even had, the library would have been hard to get into and all the books might've been rented. So just think about that, how lucky we are that we have the technology we do when we had the pandemic. So that went on my list as something that was a pandemic positive is all of the cable channels. Okay, that was number 6. Number 7. So this is really important because it made my husband happy. And when he's happy, I'm happy. We live on a golf course and the golfing never shut down. So I don't know if that's true everywhere. I think I heard of a place that shut down that was a golf place. But where we live, they never shut it down. And so the entire time that the pandemic was going on, my husband could go out and golf with his friends. And you're outside, you couldn't ride in a cart with somebody else. You just had your own cart. So if you think about it, you're never closer than 6 feet to people. Plus you're outside. So he got to do what he loved and continue to do it. And he never got sick. None of his friends that he plays golf with got sick. So it was a blessing where we live, and that opportunity to continue to play at least one. And he's very much into sports. So he lost all of the sports that he doesn't play anymore, but he watches it. And so to be able to have that outlet was so important, and probably maybe was just a big lifesaver for that year and a half. Because I can't imagine if he didn't have golf and he didn't have all the shows to watch, he would have been probably a very unhappy guy. So number 8, the pandemic positive, a big one for me, is I didn't lose anybody that I know or love. I heard of people losing people that they love, but personally, I'm fairly unscathed at this point, which makes me feel very fortunate. Again, knock on wood. And my aunt, my dad's youngest sister, I'm trying to think how old she is now. I think she's 78, and she got COVID last March. She and her husband, and she lives in Florida, and she lives like Florida part of the year, and Massachusetts the other part of the year. But she happened to be in Florida when she got it, and she was in the hospital and survived it. Yeah. So, and I just recently was in Florida and saw her and got to hug her, and she, thank goodness, survived it. So a pandemic positive is for me that everybody I love is still healthy and safe. Number 9, the trips that I now get to go on, because I have like a ton of airline credit that's good till the end of the year. I got to use it by the end of the year. But so I travel a lot for my business, and I went on like 8 trips in 2019. So I had, I think, like 4 different trips planned and scheduled. So they were all canceled, but fortunately the airlines have been very, very great about allowing that to convert to credit and to have plenty of time to reuse it. So one thing we did, which was not planned and would not have probably happened, is we went to Florida in April. Got to see my aunt, got to see my uncle. My other aunt had gotten divorced from when I was a teenager. I hadn't seen him since my grandfather's funeral when I was 17. Got to see him, got to see his wife, who I'd never met, got to see my cousin. These people all live in Florida. So I'd never been to the West Coast of Florida below Tampa. And so my cousin lives outside of Tampa, and my aunt lives like below Sarasota. And so we just decided, let's go down, let's investigate. Who knows if one day we might get a second place down there. And it was so much fun. We had so much fun, and it was just starting to loosen up in terms of like mask requirements. And you go to Florida and so much outdoor stuff, and we stayed at a place that had an outdoor bar and people were maskless, and it was just like such a nice, that was kind of my first feeling of, oh my gosh, maybe it's over. Maybe we can get back to some sort of normal. And so the trips that I now get to go on, that wouldn't have even been an opportunity because I have all this credit to use, and we're thinking about where we're going to go next. I want to get to Sedona. I do have a trip planned. It's a podcast convention conference or whatever for women, and it's in October in Scottsdale. So I'm super excited about that. In fact, this is kind of crazy. A really good friend of my husband's, who he played rugby with, and he had a place in LA. So a lot of my trips were in LA in 2019. So I would bunk with him on some nights, like if I was, the next day I was going to fly out of LA, or, so I'd stay with him. He had a really beautiful place right on the beach in Marina del Rey. So guess where he lives now? Scottsdale. He moved to Scottsdale. I'm like, I'm really not stalking you or following you, but I do have a conference just coincidentally in Scottsdale in October. So it's so crazy. So anyways, I'm excited to, start to get out and if I'm going to be in Arizona, I went to Sedona once for a wedding and it was really, really amazing. And my coach now lives there and has Airbnbs there. So I really, but he posts all the time about really cool hikes and everything. And there's UFOs there too. So I'm excited to do that. So that's number 9. Number 10. Well, I did add one. So let me tell you the one I added. My pandemic puppy. My pandemic puppy, who is a Pouton. If you never heard of a Pouton, it's part poodle, part Coton de Tuileries, which I never knew what that breed was until I found him on the internet. So he came to us in February. So the pandemic was actually happening, but we didn't know it yet. And I had booked a flight. We lost our dog in January, and I was ready to get right back on the horse again with having a dog because our dog was old and had dementia. And so it was almost like we hadn't had a dog for almost a year. And so I was ready to jump right back in and get another puppy. And fortunately I did, because they had a litter that was available then. And then they didn't have any more litters until like May. And so I don't think I would have been able to get a puppy until much later, because I don't think I would have gone on an airplane in May. So fortunately, I got on an airplane in May and went and flew to get him. And he has been the biggest joy of our lives. And the pandemic positive Pouton is what we'll call him. But my husband, fun fact, never had kids since he was never married. Well, that doesn't mean just because you're married, you don't need to be married to have kids, but he never had kids that we know of yet. So this is his first child. Even though we had a puppy before, it was my dog that I brought into the marriage. So he was like 4 when we got married, and he was a Chihuahua. So he never really it took him a long time to adapt to my husband, but he eventually did. And my husband grew to love him so much and was devastated when we had to put him down. So he loved him, but he did not love him as much as he loves this dog. I mean, this dog is his baby, and it's really fun to finally see him have a child that he kind of feels unconditional love for. It makes my heart melt. He takes pictures on his phone and sends them to me. It's really cute. So the pandemic puppy is a positive. And then the last thing that came to mind is our resilience as a people. We are people that can get through anything. And even though it's been a hard 18 months, we are rebounding. And we will be strong and better as ever. I feel that. I know that. That's just who we are. We come back. We come back harder, stronger. And I know it's shifted people. It's shifted people's thinking. Their lives are going to be better because of the hardships, because of the lessons, because of what it's brought up, and they're going to do things differently now. It really made a lot of us think, what do we really want in the time we have left? What am I going to do now? Because you never know, right? There's no guarantees. And I think the pandemic made us realize there are no guarantees. My brother-in-law just had a heart attack. He basically died. He was riding a bike, and fortunately was with friends, dropped dead. And somebody knew CPR and worked on him for 10 minutes until the ambulance got there. And he coded twice. He was in a drug-induced coma for like 5 days. I don't know if my sister even thought he'd come out normal again if he survived. But he did, and he's here. And, you think about the pandemic and then that, things like that really change you, make you look at things differently, make you value life in a whole different light. But we're resilient, and that is a huge positive. The appreciation of our resilience and looking at the abundance that is available to us that we often don't even pay attention to. So I would love for you, as a result of listening to this episode, just write down all the pandemic positives. Try to list at least 10, and then go ahead and list more. And ask your friends to do the same thing. And it's interesting what'll come up. So hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you again, or talk to you again next week. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into the Not Your Average Lives podcast. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe on iTunes if you have an Apple device. You can find free resources and learn what else I have going on at the moment that might interest you on my website at notyouraveragegrandma.com. You can also find me on Instagram or Facebook at Not Your Average Grandma. If you liked this episode, it would make my heart so happy if you could leave me a 5-star rating. You can also add a review to let me know what you like about this podcast, which will help spread the word about it to others who need a little midlife inspiration. As always, be you, listen to your inner voice, and focus on reigniting that lost spark so you can start living your own Not Your Average life.